Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm going to move back so I have equal head size. I am Julie Lancaster. This is Katie Wittekind, and I want to tell you more about her. But first, look where we are. We're at the rock climbing gym because we are playing hooky. Not even really. This is how we roll in terms of a business meeting.
Yes.
Yeah? Look how close we have to talk if we're. You wouldn't know it's coming. Okay, so I wanted to bring her to you because you may have. Can we stand up more? Are you squatting?
No, this is me.
Oh,
You're
that's
just that
funny.
much taller.
That's funny. That's cute. I was like, I thought I was getting tired, but I'm gonna keep doing it. Okay, so. Katie is part of the Lancaster Leadership team, and she is our leading expert on perspective taking, which all of us need from time to time, if not once an hour. Yes? So she's going to teach us a little bit about that. But first, if you haven't had a chance to work with her, first of all, if you are working with us, you're either working on creating culture, creating stronger, thriving culture, you're working on leadership skills or growing your leader's skills, or you're working on being more strategic instead of just responding and doing the to-do list, but be operating from strategy. And so, Katie's been working with a lot of our teams, and she is just incredible. And she just has a new article on our website if you want to check it out. And if you're like, what's the website, Julie? Okay, lancasterleadership.com. But without further ado, I'd like to share with you, and then I'm going to I can't flip it as I'm talking, can I? I'm going to then highlight it on you. Katie, will you tell us about this is so close, isn't it? What's the concept of perspective taking, and how does somebody use it, and how can it help us in our lives? Do you have thoughts on this?
Absolutely. Thank you. What's funny is perspective taking became an interest of mine well before I actually studied it in my master's degree, because basically every mistake you can make with perspective taking is something I've done. So I come not only from personal experience, but from an academic experience as well. Perspective taking is that ability to walk in another's shoes. Now, we've all heard this concept, but how often do we actually practice it? And how often do we catch ourselves really advocating for our perspective, our point of view, and our opinion without really taking the time to think about what the perspectives that everyone else is at the table? And so really, it's interesting because perspective taking, critical thinking, curiosity, love of learning, and the ability to discern all really come together to build great leadership and great teams. And so when it comes to perspective taking, if this is something that you're struggling with on your team, you'll know it if you're in a meeting and tensions build quickly because there is a disagreement about perspective on a project or a concept on how to deal with a crisis. And rather than getting curious, everyone is really digging their heels in on what their perspective is and why we need to move forward in this particular way. So in order to encourage more perspective taking with your teams, here's a couple tips for you to try. One, before you have a meeting about a project or a concept that your team is working on, ask them in advance to give you perspectives that are opposite of their own and research those before they come to the meeting. So that might mean, okay, you're giving me the perspective of the client, you're giving me the perspective of the business partner, you're giving me the perspective of the leadership team. And if you aren't sure, go talk to them, ask them questions about it, and be ready to report back their perspective as well as your own. So that's one way to encourage more perspective taking in a meeting. Another way is to really start teaching and facilitating fierce curiosity. So this really comes down to the ability to come up with questions that are about the project that you may not have answers to, right? So if they come in with their idea and their perspective on the project, that's great. And the expectation is set in advance that you're going to have questions ready to ask the other people in the room. It gets them out of advocating just for their own opinion and gets them thinking about what the perspective is of the others in the room. I hope this is helpful as you move forward and increase perspective taking with your teams.
Isn't she so good? And look at how you just got that little tip. This is really making me feel really tall. So have a wonderful day, everybody here. Look, we're geared up. We're ready to strap on some ropes and have a little fun and get perspective from being up high. Oh, that's a terrible, corny joke. Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a good one.